any ranches that raised the bulls, where you could go as sort of as a dude ranch or guest. And back in the 60s, there weren't. And I kind of gave up on it. And then last year, about this time, I forget how it was. I was looking at something for bullfighting. I wanted to figure a way I could get permission to get inside the ring of Mexico City, which was the biggest ring in the Western Hemisphere. But in the process of that, I came across some guy in Southern California who has a program where you can go down and learn to become a bullfighter. Not to actually end up in the ring, but to understand the whole system and to practice. And he said at the end of the 2-week course, we spent 3 days at the ranch of so-and-so. Well, wow. That's it. So I found this guy, and I found out, and and I spoke to this guy, the owner of I spoke to this man, the American who was quite up on bullfighting in Los Angeles, and he had spoken to this man, Pablo Labastida, who owns the ranch, and it was $300 US a day. And I said, and as I was about to hang up, I said, oh, by the way, you don't know any way they could get me into the inside the Barrera, which is the inner ring in Mexico City. And he said, well, Pablo Labastida could do all of that. So immediately, $300 a night was cheap. So I went down to this place over Christmas. Lee, who's permitted me to say she's my lover and not my wife, was working on the Christmas holidays. I've been flying back and forth. So I went down there and spent Christmas with his family. And you will see I'm going to become a huge promoter for what he has to offer. And he is the manager of a matador named Ignacio Garibay, who goes by the nickname of Nacho. And Nacho was maybe, who knows, first, second, or third bullfighter in Spain down there. So all of a sudden I found myself with absolute access to every single aspect of the bullfighting, which you will see. I had no intention when I was down there of producing any kind of documentary. That only hit when so I did, when I was down there at Christmas, I went to a show before Christmas in Celaya and then to Querétaro over on Christmas Day. And then I went back in February where there was 3 corridas or fights, 3 fights in 3 consecutive days in 3 different cities with Nacho. So I couldn't pass that up. So you will see sort of interspersed and broken up, not too much broken up, 3 separate bullfights in 3 different, I'm sorry, 5 in 5 different cities. I didn't intend to, the idea of making a documentary only occurred to me afterwards, so when putting all this together in a mad panic over the last few weeks, I did this a month ago and deleted it. So now I start all over again, which is nice. It's kind of hit and miss, but I think by the end of it all, you get a pretty good idea. Now, this gentleman here is a friend of mine, Salvatore Albanese. He's proud of his Sicilian roots. He's a professor in sociology, but he is the best amateur in the finest sense of the word on the subject that can be roundly described as animals in mythology. And where did it go? I had a piece of paper. I want to read to you. Oh, here it is, isn't it? I want to read. I asked him in an email if he wouldn't mind putting together in 5 or 10 minutes. And this is what he emailed me back. You didn't know about this.
No, I did.
Yeah. I love this. Dear Carrie, I think the mere prospect of speaking in public about animal symbolism scares the hell out of me. But I function best when I sense danger or pain that is about to happen, which is the reason why I have always felt an affinity for the old rituals. They were all attempts, however vain, to assuage fear of impending calamities and thus defy the inevitability of death by celebrating life as a will to power. That's what the bull comes. So at the risk of making a fool of myself, the answer is yes. I accept your invitation to feel the pain of preparing for it and then the angst of standing in front of your guests. You don't have any angst at the moment.
Not really, no.
So I think we'll open by Sal just giving you a bit of a background into why animals were important in the survival of mankind thousands of years ago. I should maybe preempt on one point. The earliest depictions that we have of the man is made of bulls are in those caves in southern France, the pronunciation of which I have never been able to do. And those are huge depictions of the wild bull. The bull was originally a wild animal, like any other wild animal. And you can guess in your mind how old you think that was, but it was 17,000 years ago. 17,000 years ago, Neanderthal man was roaming Europe. So just try to connect all of this. And how is it today that we still have all of Mexico, Central and South America, and the Iberian Peninsula killing bulls in a man-on-bull contest? You're up.
Thank you.
You need Reg to help you with that?
No,
And I
it's,
want to thank Reg Hook for
right?
I don't know how many times in the last couple of days I thought I just lost everything. He just, oh, just go here, hit that. Oh, there it is, thanks, bye.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I don't know where to start. Maybe, first thing, I have been to Sicily a million times, but I'm not from Sicily. I'm from Calabria, across the Strait of Messina. But I am from an ancient Greek land, basically. So my interest in this subject, I am not a specialist. I teach sociology. But I've always been fascinated since I was a child by the representation of basically scenes like this one in Greek, mainly Greek mythology. This is Minoan, ancient Crete, Greek. And I wrote a paper a long time ago, 1976, when I was a graduate student, on the symbolic meaning of the goat in pre-Hellenic, pre-Greek religion of the Aegean area of the Eastern Mediterranean. And in doing that, I came across a lot of talk about bulls. That's where my first encounter with bulls, in effect. And there's a number of things you could say. I mean, it's really a subject. I mean, myths are fascinating to study because they kind of, the factual representation, which is what myths are. It's a form of writing, a pre-literate human form of writing originally, or of telling a story which also imparts a lesson about something or other, or telling about the history of people. And it is a form of writing, and one has to read sort of into it. I had notes which I was going to use, but I'm going to try and emulate Kerry, not using my notes, but it's not a good idea. So usually some of the objects, most of the objects that are most predominant in mythologies are the objects that are in the environment in which people live. Now, if one looks at the region of, we call the Mediterranean basin, and beyond to the east, actually, one of the two characteristics, the wild cattle, species of wild cattle were spread throughout this area, all the way, and there's one particular species called the auroch, or the Bos primogenius, which was spread throughout Europe and the Middle East and even parts of North Africa. And it is that species that is represented way back from Paleolithic times up to sort of the classic period of Greece and Rome. Now, this is the species of wild cattle which roamed Europe and the Mediterranean and the Middle East all the way to Iran. It is not the same species that one finds in India, though. And this species became extinct. The last cow of this species died in Poland in 1627. But the species was rebred in the 1930s in Germany. And this is a very recent picture of a bull, which is very much like the bulls that were being the object of the hunt going way back to Paleolithic time, and I'm going to say later on, perhaps way back to Neanderthal man. So this is a painting from one of these Paleolithic caves in Spain. It is about, this painting here is about somewhere between 16 to 18 million, to 18,000 years old, and it shows a human figure with bull horns. So we know for sure, this obviously had religious significance, so we know for sure that at least going far that back, and not just in Spain or in southern France where most of the famous caves are, but even as far east as the Arabian Peninsula and Iran, southern Iran in particular, and obviously through also Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and all the way to Britain. In fact, there's suggestions that even Stonehenge, the rituals at Stonehenge has something to do with cattle and bulls in particular. The Druids kept special herds of cattle for their religious ceremonies. So the association between the bull and symbolic meaning is very old, because the bull or the wild cattle and then later domesticated cattle were an important economic resource for all of these people. It may be hard to think of today, but ancient Mesopotamia, had incredibly luscious grazing lands, as did the Arabian Peninsula. You would not think so today, and the bull was prominent in Sumerian religion, for example, and it's from the Sumerians that the Egyptians got a lot of their motives in the religion, this being one of them. One of the greatest gods of the Egyptians, the most ancient, was a bull, bull god, associated both with powers of fertility, but also with death. The god of death in the Egyptian pantheon, Osiris, and indeed later on the Greeks anthropomorphized this god and presented him in the form of a human face. Now, these is an example of what are called horns of consecration, which were archaeological excavations in Crete found these to have been ubiquitous in throughout ancient Knossos. And this is a stylized version, but it's very much, there were monuments like this in Minoan, pre-Greek Crete. And I am going to concentrate the rest of what I'm going to say, except for the end, on Minoan mythology. Okay? Only because it is the one which has captured the imagination of people for over 100 years, since the initial excavations by Sir Arthur Evans, who was a brilliant archaeologist. And although he made up, it seems now, current research suggests that he made up a lot of the, or at least, he speculated a lot. But this is a fresco from what used to be called the Royal Palace in Knossos, excavated in the late 19th century, which shows the sacrifice of a bull. And the table on which the bull is sacrificed is very significant. It is a typical case of an actual religious sacrifice. The priestess has just finished, or is still got her her knife inserted. There's another priestess with bagpipes in the back, or with some kind of, and this is just after the bull has been gored. Now, in Minoan religion, the role of priestesses is very significant, and what they wear. And priestesses used to wear crowns with horns, which symbolize the fact that in Minoan culture, the high priestesses, like the highest deity was a female. And the fact that she wore the bull's horns symbolized that the bull was subject to her authority, her power. And indeed, that's what's interesting about one of the most famous character in Minoan mythology, which is the Minotaur. Because the Minotaur we tend to think of as this half-human, half-bull that is somehow symbolic of generative power and virility, sort of, and everything that is male. And yet, in Minoan civilization, the bull was actually subordinate to the great goddess or goddesses. There were many different ones. And the actual identity of the Minotaur and of the bull god as such was very equivocal in terms of the sexuality, whether it was essentially symbolic of male sexuality, but on the other hand, in the religion of the Minoans, that sort of the male sort of principle in fertility was subject to sort of the domain of the great goddess. And so all of the scenes representing the sort of sacrifice of the bulls in Minoan art always show priestesses in control. Now, one could go on into telling the myth of how the Minotaur came about, this is later Greek mythology, not Minoan even, about Zeus having had 3 sons with a certain mortal, and then abandoning her and the children ending up in Crete, growing up, one of the names of the 3 was Minos, and Minos became he got rid of his brothers, he became the king of Crete, and then he summoned his father Zeus to show him that he actually loved him. Say, show me that you love me as a father. And so Zeus, to show his sort of love for his son, had a white bull rise from the sea. And this white bull was so beautiful that when Minos saw him, he said, well, I can't sacrifice this bull. It's too beautiful. So he decided to keep it. But the sea belongs to Poseidon, who is Zeus' brother god of the waters. And the bull is also associated with Poseidon in later Greek religion. So Poseidon became very upset. And in order to avenge himself against Minos, he made Minos' wife fall in love with the bull. And then there is a graphic description of how she gets impregnated by the bull. But out of this union, there comes the Minotaur. It's born half human, half bull. But the Minotaur is kind of very destructive and reckless. And there are all kinds of other myths associated with the Minotaur in terms of how in the end it's slaughtered and Heracles and so on. But it is not really, the Minotaur is a very equivocal figure. But in any case, in Minoan religion, there are 2 powerful symbols which always appear side by side with the goddess, the great goddess. One is the double axe, which was used to stun the bull before putting in the knife. And the other is the head of the bull. Now, there are other myths and symbolic associations of what the head of the bull actually means in terms of female power as opposed to male power, because it's very much similar to female sexual anatomy. And indeed, it stands there not just as a symbol of male sort of power, but as a symbol of female power in the case of Minoan religion. So that the head of the bull is also sort of one of the epiphanies of the goddess, of the great goddess, the Earth Mother. Now, there's 2 ways that we know of how important the bull was in Minoan civilization. One is the religious sacrifice of the bull and its close association with the great goddess. And the other one is because of games, bull games. This is, again, a fresco from the Palace of Knossos, which shows the bull leaping, jumping scene. And these games were ubiquitous in Minoan Crete.
I don't know if you're going to see what's happening here. So let me just describe. Obviously, there's somebody over here. There are acrobats, and you'll see in my part of the show, you'll see how this sort of has come into the modern day. There's somebody over here, I'm too close now, approaching the bull, and they go over the head, and you see this guy upside down, sort of doing his act, and then ending up over here.
Well, let's say, see, this is the stages, the stages of the.
Sorry.
Okay. Now, the interesting thing about this, so the bull, these games would constantly from the archaeological evidence that we have, we don't have any written evidence in Minoan civilization. From the archaeological evidence is that they were, held constantly in Minoan Crete, and so the combination of the religious importance of the bull and the games tells us really how powerful a symbol the bull was in ancient Crete. This is a modern version of bull jumping from southern France. And indeed, there are modern examples of bull jumping sort of sports from different parts of the Middle East, even as far away as India. And in Spain, it was revived in the 1850s. This is just a few years ago in the south of France. I don't know exactly, I don't think it's as
That's not a bull.
well, that's sort of, Now, there have been some recent discussions in anthropology, physical anthropology, about findings in Portugal, which show findings of a skeleton, which is neither full human nor full Neanderthal. It's half and half. It's a crossbreed. So that is indisputable evidence that human, like Homo sapiens, our species, and the Neanderthals were able to breed together. So there are many interesting things about the Neanderthals, especially findings in Spain and Portugal. There are some very curious injuries in some of these skeletons, which suggest that shows a very strong similarity with rodeo riders in our times, like in the United States, like in Dallas, Texas, when they get gored by a bull. These injuries are very much the same. Another peculiarity of Neanderthals is the way they used to hunt. Neanderthals were, in many ways, actually were considered to be more intelligent than humans in terms of the brain capacity. However, they didn't like change, especially they didn't like technology. They didn't like to change. So they had a very weird way of hunting game, especially even very sort of heavy game like bulls or bisons. They used to entice the bulls to charge them. And they would stand there for the bull as a target to the bull. And just as the bull would arrive, they would sort of move slightly and grab the fur, and then they would stick a knife right on the carotid vein artery and kill the bull that way. On occasions where they were not swift enough, the bull would gore them. So these injuries in the skeleton suggest that this is most likely what was happening. Now, Neanderthals, in terms of the evidence that we have, may have lived longest in Europe, in Spain, in the Iberic Peninsula. So we have evidence of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals kind of, getting married, I guess. So they must have also exchanged cultures, so there must have been a cultural fusion. And just one wild suggestion, this is what's so fascinating to me about mythology, is that one can kind of put facts together for which there's no proof, no real concrete evidence, but they seem very probable. So it's just as likely that bullfighting could be as old as Neanderthal men hunting in the plateaus of, high plateaus of Spain, about at least 20-something thousand years ago. That's about all I'm going to say. I mean, Thank you.
If that's his hobby, his sociology must be a killer.
Well, I brought a couple of my papers here to show, if anybody wants to see them. No, I'm just going to leave them. This is the paper that I originally wrote in '76 about goats in pre-Hellenic religion. This is a paper that's more recent. It's about euthanasia and endocannibalism, but I go into the sort of human psychological sort of reaction to fear, especially fear of death, as the beginning of, I guess, human culture. That's in this one.
This one?
Yeah, so I'll leave them here.
Where do you teach?
Langara College.
So, the next, everybody okay with the time? No rush?
No rush.
Good. Lori, do you
Wish
see
I
a
was digging
connection?
ditches.
There's always connections, but I think that's fine.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
he hasn't heard a word yet.
No, I got my ears in, but it was great, thank you.
I want to ask his son, have you ever known your dad to refuse to speak before?
You know, one of the connections, Carrie, one of the connections, of course, is that over time, regardless of race or culture, there's been this thing that males have to show the females that they have got big balls,
Cojones.
right? And the same goes in Africa, where the young men have to go out and kill a lion by hand. And you know, there's a continuity of this that leads right up to the modern day where you get photographers jumping into the ring in Mexico to take photographs.
Touche. He's my only surviving mentor. All my previous mentors have died.
Or been murdered?
I'm going to start with some more my own pictures about the connections. And you will recognize that the symbol of the bull is with us to this day, more than we would probably realize. This is a photograph I took of Nacho on his knees in a bull ring with the capote, which is the cape he uses as he leads the bull to the position where he thinks he can kill the bull, or the moment of truth. And so the bull is coming at you through there. I think that's the best picture I've ever taken in my whole life, and if you ask me how I did it, I haven't got a clue. Something went completely haywire and definitely wrong with my camera. Because I've looked at the shot like a second before it, or half a second before it, and the shot a half a second afterwards, and they're fine. So if anybody can tell me how to do that on purpose, I'll give you $1,000. All right. Okay, so you have to forgive me for a minute, because this is all sort of new to me as to how I proceed. I think I go here. Nope, yes. Okay, there's that painting in southern France that's 17,000 years old. You can see the wild bulls. The bulls were a wild animal of Europe, as the wolves and grizzly bears are considered here today. That's an early depiction of a bull on a painting as a single thing with a lot of humans around it. If you can sort of read what's underneath there. There's so much on this that I just went and sort of picked out a few things. Here's the same photo that Self showed you of the acrobats going over the horns, flipping over the back, and landing. This shows where there are various sites in that area of the world that have uncovered archaeological artifacts which support the bull thing. There's an old, I guess, bracelet or something or other with the bull front and center. There's a lot of pictures of the differences of man. This goes way back to ancient Egypt, where you have symbols of bulls. This again is Egypt. Now, bulls fighting is not. Look at the proportion that they have. The bulls is proportional to the men. This is a layer of. I haven't got my reading glasses on, but you can see it goes way back. I think it's in Sumeria. Does it say? Where?
2600 BC Sumeria.
Sumeria, yeah. Here's a relief. Bulls doing, sort of in control of things. The marvelous sculpture. I'm not sure where that is. It's maybe Minoan, Crete, or pre-Hellenic Mesopotamia. So, as Sal said, he discovered that they go further east than he had previously thought. Again, another depiction of the flipping around. The bull is an enormous character in the roles of humans. Symbols. And here we have a drawing by Picasso of the Minotaur having sex with a human. Picasso was particularly There's another one of his. He was very much interested as an artist in this whole mythological connection between women and bulls, men and bulls. A little bit of a bacchanal with bulls and women and a man. 1933, another Picasso, a bull looking at a woman. Then he did a whole series of, wait a minute, I'm going to lower this down. He did a whole series of posters, lots and lots and lots, and I can only sort of show a few here. Miro did one. These are for bullfights, I think. The Spanish isn't that good. These are all Picasso. The Minotaur. That's something that I have that Bill Reed did for me. It has nothing to do with anything really. So much of what he started would be described that way. We were up in Haida and talking about something, and I told him I was a Taurus, and he got involved in talking about bulls, and he had some wire in a pair of pliers and wanted me to go off and get a bottle of wine. I came back and he gave me that. Stan knows how Bill was sort of like that.
It's a wine holder, isn't it? It's a wine getter.
That's a painting out of Mexico. That's a Mexican painting. And it's interesting that there's no bulls in Asia, but what do you see? The bull has made it to China, and it's the Wall Street bull. So that tells you the extent to which we've effed up the true meaning of the bull in our Western culture. And it's funny that the first sort of symbol, the Chinese, and in that sense all of Asia, none of Asia had the bull, are sort of bringing the bull in now as a symbol is for the stock market. Now, this is last December. It's wait a minute, whoops, it's slightly staged.
Is that what you took when you traveled to Mexico?
Wait a minute, Reg, what'd I do?
That was his home experience.
Full screen, thanks. Uh-oh, okay. You've heard my spiel on the bull. Okay, so there I am as I'm heading for the airport on December 19th, 08.
What year was that?
Last winter, Christmas. So here I am at the airport at San Luis Potosi. San Luis Potosi is about in probably the dead center of Mexico, and it's 4 hours north of Mexico City, which is further south, obviously. And at the airport, spelling my name the way I did on my invitations to people, which is, I couldn't believe it, wrong, is Pablo. So this is, if you decide you want to go, and I'm going to put in a big spiel for him, if you ever just talk to me, if you'd like to go and experience this, he comes and meets you at the airport. And this is his ranch from a hill. This is about an hour south of San Luis Potosi. It's beautiful, dry, mesquite country. In this particular part of the world of Spain, of Mexico rather, the yards or the pastures or the large areas are built by stone walls, which are, stone is ubiquitous. And that's kind of the sun coming up in the morning to the east. Sort of the roads around the ranch and the cactus that are around it. Photographer's paradise. Those cows on the far side are different species of cow which are used to get the bulls out. Oh, Lori, can you hear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. This is this is coming into their home. They were adding on a couple of rooms when I was there, so it was Christmas time. This is their front door. The symbol on the door is the sign of the Pablo's grandfather who established these bulls in this ranch.
Do you know the branches, the brands on their door going back on slant?
Yeah, there's two different ones. The name of the ranch, or the bulls that they raise, are called Espiritu Santo. And that's what those two things are. This is their own living room. It's nice, it's not big, it's typical, it's fairly new. I mean, this part, the grandfather owned a huge hacienda, and the sons took up little places. And this was only a few, I don't know how many years old, but not that old. That table on the left is the dining room table, and my God, the experiences I had there at breakfast. Whoops, going the wrong way. Oh, jeez. Reg left. Reg!
Full screen, full screen.
Full screen? Everybody votes for full screen?
We're all paying attention.
So this is his grandfather, who started this in 1888. This is the room I stayed in. He has one room which is sort of the bull room, and the others are less scary if that kind of stuff freaks you out.
So you slept with the bulls?
I slept with the bulls.
Is there any meaning to the bull heads
That-
that are mounted?
No, just the bullheads.
Okay.
This is the other room, which is less, this is outside their house, sort of on the wall, sort of a little bar.
How's your Spanish, Gary?
Muy bien, gracias. That bull way up on the top right, you'll see him at the very end of the show.
Jumps down off the wall?
So this says, in this casa, we live with the bull, for the bull, and for the sort of the purpose of the bull. Cacti, the burro. This man is, I don't know, nobody knows how old this guy is. He lives way out by the front gate, and his only job is to let us in at night and feed the goats. This is breakfast, and I tell you, it's worth going there. Just every breakfast is a phenomenal feast for me. I've never experienced. I wouldn't guess what it is. It's everything you can imagine. This is the ranch where they make the hay. They do the hay. These are the brands. These are the kids fooling around at night. His son and his brother's son, so those guys are cousins. They were tiling the roofs of the new area. They're very Catholic. This is the only shot I have of inside San Luis Potosí, this is sort of the colonial area. Here we are shopping for Christmas Day. This is the home of Pablo's wife, Paulina, where we went for Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. He just was standing there as we drove in. This is every ranch that raises bulls, and most ranches do, have what's a ring for what they call a tienda, which is the testing of the bulls when they're 2 years old at the ranch. Just some little things that sort of, I don't think were put together for me to photograph, but they all work. This is inside their home. It's a very beautifully laid out, typical, well, I can't say typical, but
What a room.
that's the pool table. And this is over the fireplace.
Those dirt floors?
Bulls everywhere. No, sorry. And this is before we started to, this was after we opened before we opened the presents, sitting there with their family. I was treated as a complete, total guest. This is her father. And this is sort of his place, and stuff he had on the wall would die for. This is sort of coming out of sequence. I thought I had all these. These books have been kept going back to 1888 and show the bloodlines of every single bull names, weight, and it's all in here. This goes back to, I think, the 30s. It shows when they do the tienda, which when they test these bulls out at the age of 2, they mark on there what they think their performance is going to be in the future. These are 2-year-olds that are bulls, which hang, well, there's calves and there's females as well. They hang around the ranch in a particular area. These are 3-year-olds, and they don't fight until they're 4-year-olds. So the first picture I took of the ranch was on that way up on top of that bluff up behind there. These are basically 3-year-olds of 1 more year to go. They've never fought other than what they do when they're 2. They've had no contact with man.
They don't fight with each other?
Well, they do a bit. We'll see a bit of that. And that's the picture of what fascinated me when I was 18 as being a magnificent looking beast. That one, Sal, looks more like your Yurok, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, there's theory that in Spain, in fact, the bloodlines of the bulls are
Yeah.
directly descended.
Well, that's a good point I want to mention. The reason that it's the Iberian Peninsula which fights bulls and nowhere else was that all of these wild animals that were in Europe, whether they be bears, wolves, or bulls, I mean, the bull was a wild animal that would get you if you didn't watch it. They survived in Iberia because the Muslim, or the Moors, and the Christians were at each other for so long that nobody had time to go and wipe out the wild bulls, literally. So they survived there, and they were brought in, perhaps as Sal mentioned, or I just thought, I didn't know when, it would have been before the Neanderthals, and after Muhammad, that sort of developed. Okay.
Carrie, does it matter about color, like what they look like? Do they have to look a certain way when they go into the ring?
They all look pretty much the same. They have been bred over and over and over again so often that the bulls in Mexico are a little different than what has been bred in Spain. They're slightly, little bit lighter in weight, but they all look pretty much the same. But the colors don't matter. You don't get, but they're pretty much black. I should tell you, just for your own curiosity, that in Mexico every year they kill about 5,000 bulls. In Spain they kill 30,000 every year. So here's a couple having at it for I'm not sure what reason. If they ever put a new bull from some other area into this particular pasture, that's fascinating. There's the real fights. But they don't do that because bulls kill each other. These guys are just sort of going at it. And I've interspersed this, there's a famous Mexican sculptor, I've interspersed this show with pieces of art from time to time. He's got a staff of 6. 3 work the hay fields and 3 work the bulls. Now there you've got cows, which are used to go and segregate out the young 2-year-olds or the 3-year-olds to take them individually somewhere. They'll go back to their group. But if you bring in these cows, they'll follow them. I don't know whether that's sex or fighting. There's a 4-year-old. That probably is 450 to 500 kilos. So what's that, 900 pounds, 1,000 pounds? So you'll see later on that you've got these small, thin matadors who probably weigh 140, up against a ton almost. Nope, not true. And
Do they keep stats?
I'll get you there.
I will wait.
That guy's horn is a little different. So you'll sort of walk in here to the point where you have to sort of, he will not let anybody do this. You get warned when you go to his ranch that you want to go inside. I may have been on my super telephoto, or I may have gone a little bit, but there's another bull over here. As long as the bulls are together and they're not alone and you don't intrude on a certain boundary that you can discover, you're okay. You should be okay. Getting some shade. Now these are the cows. This is a different area. This is about 20 miles from his place. And these are probably, I think, 35 cows and one very happy bull. And he's got 2 sets of these, so he's got 60 cows with 2 breed bulls, and from that he gets all of his stock. That's the bull.
How old is that bull?
I have no idea. So this is where the cows range, and he fills that up with water every couple of days. Okay, now we're at Celaya, which is a town an hour and a half south. It's about a little bit west rather, of Querétaro. And it's like MGM, a GM place. It's all money. So in the beginning of it all, they try to sell some cars. This is a fellow who, every bullfighter has his own, this individual who looks after the tools of the trade, selling hats and selling seat cushions. You'll see later on what the kids do at night to gather up the old seat cushions. This is Nacho Ignacio Garibay, sort of. This particular bull ring is a portable. It's a fascinating story. I don't want to get into it. But the guy owns 2 of these, and he sets them up in different small towns that don't have bull rings all around Mexico. One of the picadors checking out all of his, and each matador, of whom there are 3 in each fight, have their own crew. So each matador has his own picadors and his own bandilleros, and this is a fellow from some other group who's just sharpening, making sure that the various instruments of destruction and death, etc., are sharp. That's a puntillo of sorts. That's a sword that is used when the bull is injured so much that you just want to kill him. And you can't seem to do it, and you come up behind his horns and you jam that into his spinal cord behind his horns. So here we are in this sort of portable Barnum and Bailey circus. And it really is, it's just like a circus. When I went to the circus as a kid, there's no difference, absolutely no difference. This is Paulina's mother and father, whose house we'll probably get back to, I guess, hopefully for Christmas. In the beginning of each thing, the group people come out. There's the 3 matadors, followed always by the picadors and everybody else. And at the opposite side of the ring, there's a live band playing the Lonely Bull. No, all other kinds of stuff. So this is...
What's a picador?
Huh?
What's a picador?
Well, you wait and you'll see. The picador's on the horse. So the 3 matadors come out draped in sort of things that they don't fight with. And there's Pablo making notes and always checking. He's the manager. He's in there, down in the middle where few people can go. And this is the president. This is the man who can decide whether a bull lives, whether a matador gets an ear. Not too many bulls live, but I witnessed one of those, so we can talk about it. I was lucky enough in 2 of the fights to see some work from the horseback. We'll get to that. This is that's Nacho again. This is another young guy who you'll see later on when we do our own tienda with the 2-year-olds, a matador. This is a painting of the bull as he sort of comes down and out. And here he comes. Now,
That's a great shot.
they come out of there like, people say they come out there pissed off, right? They're angry. And I don't think that's right. And I've never sort of put this to anybody. These bulls don't get angry or mad. They have been bred for 1,000 years to fight. You think Muhammad Ali goes into the ring angry and mad? He tries to get George Foreman to get angry and mad, but he's not angry or mad. I don't think these bulls are angry or mad or pissed off.
Do they entice them?
That's a very good defense, Your Honor, but I'm out.
Do they entice them or rattle them?
No, these bulls come out. You just hold on. You know me better than that, Howard. These bulls, they come out, and here's a painting of one.
Carrie, did they tie something around their...
They put various things. So here comes another one out. See, they've been held up in a small trucks for days, and then they've been put into a small area for days, having spent 4 years in an open range, and And when they see this, boom. So they head off for the first thing they see. What they see is somebody with his cape out who ducks behind that protection piece as the bull gets there. And some bulls go right into that protection piece and shred it. This guy stops short. And now he's looking around again. This is when they're at their best. This is before they've been injured or tamed into the point where they're killable. So here they are, fresh out there and at their most magnificent. And they'll go after somebody who has these big capes. This is after the Banderilleros have done it, but then this is after everything's been done. The Banderilleros have been there, the picador, and the matador, that's Nacho with his muleta, which is the red cape, plays the bull, or I shouldn't say play, and this is sort of again on that, and then ultimately kills him. But when I was doing this, I wasn't paying attention to coordination or sequence. So the picador is sitting up there with on his horse, who's padded and blindfolded, and who has a pick with about a 5-inch spike on the end of it. And the other people, the banderilleros, are trying to get this bull to come to him. Now, this is out of sequence. This is the first day. This is when the bull has been killed, almost, not quite, and the man's going up behind with a short knife, which finishes the job. And a lot about bullfighting. So here's the picador's horse, who can't see what's coming at all. When I was in Spain, I recall seeing a bull take a horse and toss it up and over the barrera, which is that red thing you see behind. The strength of those bulls is unbelievable. Just lifted it right up and went right over. Now, it used to be that horses got killed quite frequently up until I don't know when they started putting the pads on. You can see the spike at the end of his pick under the horse's neck. And this is how they remove bulls at the end. A horse or horses come in, they put a chain around the horns, and away he goes. Now, this is a bull who's just come out. He's got some kind of a tag on him. And these two matadors, it's probably the case that it's a third matador. These two matadors are sort of eyeing him up because they're all trying to understand the habits of this bull, which horn he favors, head up, head down, in case they have to go out there and help somebody. And so these guys, these are the first men who actually do anything physical with the bull. They come in, and the bull has been determined prior to that to have certain proclivities with his horns. And they want the bull to be straight. And if they think the bull tends to move to the right too much, they'll come by him on his left and make him pull left. And they stick these picks in his shoulders. They're an inch. The pick is the actual barb is an inch. And I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but it goes under. It doesn't have any reason to injure the bull as the picador does, and we'll get back to that. The picador's job is to loosen the neck muscles up so that that head will be down when it comes time for the moment of truth, so that the matador, who's usually small, can get over into the shoulders. This is another great shot of a bull coming on this guy who's up in the air, so he's got to lay them in there, in the air, and somehow get around the horn. I think. So this guy's doing this, and he's having a good time. And then I missed the shot to put him down, but he suddenly gets tipped over. He wasn't injured really, except for his head. But this bull is not about to let him go. You'll see him in a couple of days. He's fine. It's interesting how a matador may get injured with a 1-inch cut, and because the manager gets to the media right away, it comes out in the paper the next day as a 6-inch cut.
What happened to that guy who was
He just got up and it was fine.
he was all right?
Oh yeah. So this bull is sort of coming in at the end and he's trying to stop before he crashes into the boards.
Is that you under that cane?
Carrie,
Yeah.
So, we're focused a lot on the bull. However, I'm curious about the matador or the picador. Is what encourages them to be doing that? Is it a family history
I don't know the answer to that.
thing, or-
Maybe we can have sort of those kinds of weird questions at the end.
Sorry.
You were expecting normal questions?
So this is Querétaro. This is Christmas Day. This is a smaller bull ring, and this is a larger bull ring in a smaller city. People coming out, the matadors.
Why are their arms?
I don't know why they tuck them in there. It's just, I don't know. So this bull's come roaring out.
Another stupid.
Here he goes. He's just pure energy, pure, beautifully bred energy, power. And he sees this horse and goes right for it. Nobody has to tell him you should try to get that horse. He just knows it. So this guy, this man goes through about 6 horses in one fight. Each horse is out there for, like on the ice in hockey, for a short period of time, and they have the most unbelievable way of never getting hit, no matter how close they come. It's incredible. I just can't, I couldn't believe it. That horse is not going to be touched by that bull. That's a different horse now. They have beautiful horses. So he's going and just sticking picks in from time to time and touching him.
So his job is just to piss him off, right?
No, you can try that. Lots of luck. It's all done by one man.
That's fantastic.
Oh, his horses can do all kinds of tricks. Now this guy gets off the horse to kill. And he's going in over the shoulder, over the horn, and this obviously a different bull because they couldn't get from the back to the front that fast. But that's how he does it. And in each of those cases, the horn, the sword is going right in. So that bull will die fairly quickly. You can see there that the blood looks awful. It's like cut your face. That's from the picador. That sword is in all the way, and it kills the bull by basically they make the bull turn around a few times, and it cuts all kinds of veins, and the bull drops like that. And then they come in from behind and hit him from behind. Now that's when it's done right. Now, a lot of people object to bullfighting because it's never done right, or it's often done wrong. So this is the name of the bull, his number, and he's 445 kilograms. And there he is. So he's just come in, and he's immediately drawn by these people, the banderilleros with these particular capes. Sometimes I saw in Spain, the matador will position himself in the middle of the ring before the bull comes out, on his knees, and just take the bull as it comes and hope for the best.
He does what?
He just presents himself in the middle of the ring before the bull even comes out, before he's even seen how the bull reacts, favors, horns. So here's the bull going into the picador, who gets hissed something horribly if he doesn't. Well, he's almost overshot that one a bit. He doesn't put it in there for more than 5 or 10 seconds unless there's a fight to get it in the right place. So here's the banderillero sort of sitting waiting. You sort of see the barbs on the end of his colored.
What is the function of those?
The function of those is to teach the bull, to try to get the bull to react in a different way, to neutralize a favoring of one way or the other, as I understand it. Now, it may be a lot more. It's never quite that simple. So there's a matador down on his knees, facing the bull from behind, up against the wall, which is regarded as macho because he can't escape in that direction, and the bull comes flying through. It's such a beautiful array. The bull gets 3 sets of 2 if they all work. So how many got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all there. Because a lot of them fall out or don't hit right. To be a good matador, you don't let the bull ever hit the cape. You want the bull's head down, and you want to draw that cape around in ole, which means that the bull never quite get it.
Is there a time on this?
No, it's just what you see. I can back that up. Here we go. crooked, isn't it? This bull is breeding cows somewhere as we speak. He was, I hate to admit, but I lost some stuff. That bull survived and was the most magnificent thing people had ever seen, and there was a big audience fight with the judge. The judge finally agreed, and the matador didn't know what to do, to let him live. And then they couldn't get him out of the ring. The best pictures were just trying to get that bull to leave. They brought in cows, they went back out, they brought in cows, but they finally got him out. And this is looking down at his corral from above after the fight.
How did the pigs come out?
The who?
You know, the things that picked very painfully. Did he lose them all, the 6 bars?
They usually get knocked out before it's done, or they, yeah.
Why did he get to live?
Why did they get what?
Why did he get to live?
Because he was absolutely stunningly courageous.
Obviously good genetic material.
Yeah. Everything you want in a bull was perfect, and he's courageous. He fought, and he fought, and he fought. He never quit. He never calmed down. He kept running. He didn't just sort of stop. He just kept it up, and it was unbelievable. No, they never sworded him. That was the point. They let him live. So this is sort of a shot of the ring from up there, the spaces. This was in the evening. The light was pretty crazy. It's sort of, that's why I wish my friends were here, but they couldn't make it because somebody just almost bled to death, and there's a... The circles are to delineate spaces. Bulls have a particular place that you can quite quickly discover are their area, and you don't want to go in there. They'll retreat to an area, and it's the matadors are very cautious as to how they treat the bull's perception of his own space, because if they can get him into their space, they can kill him. Now that sword was placed beautifully. So now we're off to Guadalajara. This is February. That's the bull ring. Early morning, everybody's into it these days. This is the sword. Okay, now the bulls have been brought in and set into different pens. 1, 2, usually 3 to a pen, 2 to a pen. And the managers of all the matadors come in here at noon. The fights always start at 4, at noon. And it's picking the bulls. And the process is that every manager goes around and looks at the bulls and tries to divide them up, not whether they're, because they don't know how good or bad, but that they're similar. The worst thing they want to do is present to their matador in the ring 2 bulls that are dissimilar. They want the matador to have an experience of having to fight 2 bulls that are quite similar. So they inspect these animals. One of the best shots I missed was one of these bulls was just so covered with dirt. When he came onto the ring, he streamed this incredible rooster tail of dirt, and I, of course, didn't get it.
So the matadors each fight 2 fights a day?
3 fights. Each matador kills, there's 3 matadors, and they each kill 2 bulls.
And then one will.
No, they hardly ever, they don't get to go free too often. That's rare. So here's everybody out there. Well, there's no paparazzi as such. It's just the families of the ranch owners. So here we have both a ranch owner who meets ranch owners and picking out.
These bulls have been raised for what, 5 years?
They're 4-year-old.
4 years old.
They fight when they're 4 years old.
What does the rancher sell the bulls to?
$2,000 a piece.
So the $2,000 for the bull
Yep.
being raised is for the 4
Yep. So this is how they do this. They each writes down on a piece of paper the 2 bulls they would like to have. And this is the notes that are being taken. That's the medic. He's the local doctor. We had a marvelous discussion. There should always be a doctor at every. There's an ambulance outside, and there's a doctor, and there's a sort of a small bare room. Where there are no doctors and very distant hospitals, you get what they frankly admitted was the managers will take about half an inch off the end of a bull's horns. They want that much hope that there won't be an injury, because if there's an injury, they're in real trouble. They don't do that, and it's illegal. They don't do that where there's a doctor and they're in a big city and the ambulance is right outside. So here they roll up all these little things and they put them in a hat. Everybody puts it in the hat, and then they cover the hat and they shake it up, and then someone draws, and that's how they tell who gets what pairs. And then they take the bulls out of where they are in groups and put them in here one by one and shunt them off into a single area, because if they try to get one bull from a group to let him under the ring, they both might go out and it's just chaotic. So you've got bulls coming out. This guy just didn't like it. You see his horn there? He's going right into that wood. He's just taking it to pieces. And when it falls to the ground, he goes for it, so he injures his horn a little bit. This is the room in which the...
That one with the injured horn, did he still go on and fight?
Oh, yeah. Well, he does. I mean, it's like, I don't know what degree of pain one feels like cutting your dog's toenails. If you go too far in, I guess it hurts. This is in the room of the manager of the ring, where I would have to go and get my little sticker, which let me go wherever I wanted. That's a very pretty bull. Interesting color. Sculpture by somebody. Indian woman. This is outside the ring. There's the two horses on the left that will be in the picadors. People are getting organized. It's midday, late in the afternoon. They water down.
What do they do with the dead bulls? Is it still true that the...
Howard, you just got this habit of not thinking that I'm going to take you to all these.
I apologize.
Yes. You wouldn't be here if I couldn't answer these questions in slides. So that's a pretty big ring.
We have a Zamboni for the sand?
The sand pony.
A lot of girls in the audience. This is the band up on top that plays that marvelous Tin Pan Alley Mexican horn music. This is one of the matadors. Okay, this guy's from Spain. Guadalajara has a reputation in Mexico of preferring Spanish bullfighters, and they love it. This is a local guy. You'll see him in a couple of fights. He's very short, and that's Nacho. That's the Spanish guy.
Can we go back to Nacho?
You like Nacho?
Yeah.
So this bull is over. Hey, the best is yet to come. Here's a 1,000-pound bull. They stumble a lot. So here's a picador. Where the hell is this pick? Oh, the bull is on him before the picador could get the pick in, so that's not too cool. Now he's aiming better as the bull. The other guys sort of draw the bull's attention to the horse, and he's a little far back. His job was to sort of hit before the shoulder blades and loosen the muscles so that the bull doesn't tend to hold his head up that high. And then they push off, and the bull pushes in. Now he's getting a bit tired. His tongue is out. He's got a little bit of a problem with his right horn. One way to see the fight. Now, bullfighters love, I don't know why they do it. I shouldn't say they love, maybe they hate it. But there's this incredible machismo with the bull near the end, and nobody does it better than Nacho. He's always talking to the bulls. He's constantly talking to the bull, which is unlike anybody else I've heard. Don't ask, Howard.
His question was, do they get a stop to drink water?
I mean, what? So here he is. Okay, this is the moment of truth. This is coming in and hoping that it works. This is from a different angle, not the same bull. That horn goes all, that knife, that sword goes all the way in, and the bull just drops, and he's just sort of to the crowd. Now that sword didn't go in the full amount. So the Spanish fella is watching all this.
How old is that Spanish fella?
Too young for anybody in this audience.
That's a good picture there.
D, can I have another drink, please? So, here he comes. What's the world hold for me today? This is the last day I'm going to be here, so I might as well have some exciting fun. And away I go. Let's get him. Up. That wasn't fair. Let's go this way. Get that guy.
You were in the ring or like on the other side of the ring?
No, I'm on the opposite side. Are you kidding?
Not in the ring. How brave are you? You're down pretty low, Carrie.
Yeah, but I'm across the ring with telephoto, you see. So you see those guys in the back?
That's you?
I'm in the barrera. That's behind the barrera, which is reserved just for the people. Thanks. You want a break for drinks? No? Okay. Here we go. I love this animal. I've had a fantasy with these guys since I was 18.
Amazing, Carrie.
And I was a virgin at the time. I went to Spain a virgin. We're talking about, 5 decades ago. So.
How do they get the picadors? How well are they paid?
I don't know what the pay is. We come to the end. It's kind of like fishing. There's parts per. We'll get to that. You have to accept the fact that I get to the money end of things at the end.
Can you be a picador at the age of 70?
Only once.
Oh, look what we got here. I love these guys. They just jump in. Anybody here that would do that?
Really,
He just jumps in with a cloth.
Show it off for his girlfriend.
He's drunk.
Wait a minute. He wasn't drunk when he went and got that cloth, hid it in his jacket, came all the way in with it. This is premeditated. And of course he gets tackled and run out. I don't know how old he was either.
Is that kind of common occurrence, or did you see that?
No, it's not. Well, it's common, but I only saw it the once. This guy is showing really like these men are ballet people. They take positions that are constant with their body. It's pure ballet, and when they do it right, nothing changes. They got this position, and it's classic. It's always the case. All the best pictures you see of the black and whites. Classic. Did you get the shot? This is forever to Canada because I write all this shit off and I got to show that I do something with it.
Speak up, my batteries are low.
So this man is doing a great job with this bull. And then you get the sort of, Toro, I am conquering you. Oh. And this bull is still up and at it, still going for it. I often wonder why they don't catch on that there's nothing there after 20 minutes. There's a nice move. The bull is going behind him. That's a great picture. You see his posture? It's classic. He's got his hand and his fingers just so on his hip, and he's got his knee forward like he's a tennis player about to do the right position. And the bull is just still really powered. So you think you can do me in, fella? Moment of truth. That sword didn't work, so he tries again. And that's not going to work. You see, he's having problems. And it goes 2/3 in. So he tries it another time.
The crowd get uptight when a kill fails the first or second time?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, by the third time, they're really up in arms. So the second time, yeah, but this is his third time, and down it goes. That's the hardest job in the whole business, is to make this work, because you've got to get through bone, and the idea is to get into the heart area and cut major. Stan, you can tell us, what does he have to cut? Where's the doctor in the house? Oh, he's not here. Look at that last picture. Look at the difference in size of these two characters. One is 140 pounds, and that one, if it's the same one, is half a ton. You don't want to get hit. So there he is. He's finally put it in. He's standing there with his classic position. And he, even though it took him 3 times, it was nice finally, so he sort of acknowledges the crowd. Here's another one of those fellas. I think this is out of sequence. He's sort of saying, what do you got next? This is a Spaniard.
Is their styles different?
Nope. So he blew it. Wait till you see the pictures in the paper the next day. I told you that Guadalajara likes the Spanish over the Mexicans.
Who did you like?
Oh, I didn't. I'm not biased. But the point is, he didn't. See, this is not working. There's a sword which is like 1/3 in, and this bull is still very ready to keep going at it. So now he wants to sort of come in with that sword I showed you in the first place, to go in behind the horns and try to sever his spinal cord. Right there, bang. And it worked. And so now, look at that pose, for instance. That's the classic matador pose. That is the pose that they put when they fight, so they like to see blood across their stomach, as it were. And he's leaning back, but his head is straight up, and his arm is cocked just the right so behind him. And it's very, very regularized.
He's got the hockey mullet, too.
So they loved him. Look at this. They're up in arms because they like this town has got a reputation for not liking their own matadors.
Even though he didn't sing the sword well.
And they carry the bull out. You'll be glad to know that I lost my best pictures of what they do with them afterwards. I can explain it. So they gave him 2 ears. Well, and the next day in the papers, they feature him in Guadalajara, Mexico, and a fight with 1 Spaniard and 2 people, 2 Mexicans. They put him on the front page. It's not just that paper. So it was so much fun to hear my friend Pablo swear and bemoan and demean and chastise these ignoramuses. What do they know about bullfighting? Now we're going to, this is what they make tequila out of. There's no tequila there, though. Do you have any tequila, Dee?
I have a little bit.
A little bit. Why don't you, anybody want any tequila? There's one over there. We've got an order for tequila. And how do you want it?
Straight up.
Straight up.
If it's good tequila, what tequila is it?
You want to know what kind of tequila it is? Oh, okay. So we're going to the town of Outlan, which is famous for its tequila. It's a small town. This is the beginning of, no, Guadalajara is the first one. Then we go west of Guadalajara toward the coast to Outlan. And along the way, you see these sort of things where you can stop and get what you want. This is where we stayed. Well, actually, we didn't stay there. We had hotels in Guadalajara, and we were to go to Outland for the night, but they decided just to use the rooms to get ready, and that night we motored back to Guadalajara and stayed at the Sheraton. What's happening, Reg, with those things on top? How could I get rid of that? Thank you, sir. Listen, in the modern day and age, everybody has to have a Reg, right? You got to have a Reg. Krishna, who's your Reg?
Part of my trouble, I don't have one.
Looks like Cindy Fox did good product placement.
So this is, we're going in, we're having lunch. We got there early, we're going to have lunch before we go out to the pick, and everybody's there. The matadores, the banderilleros, and there's one fellow who's in charge of looking after the equipment. Outland, that's out of place. How'd that work? Nacho, who smokes, if you can believe it. I was shocked when I saw this. And he hides it from people. Oh, so all of you who wanted to have an affair with Nacho have given it up now?
Yes, I have.
And this is a fight. This is the sort of the typical poster, which actually you don't see that many of them. I remember in 1960 in Spain, there was massive postering around. I guess it's an expense, so they don't do it that much. These were from previous fights. These are examples of really old. These are really old posters that go way back. You see that bull going over the top? That happened. I never saw it this time. I saw it once in Spain. Bulls can jump that if they're so inclined. So these are posters for bullfights. And there was a period in which they portrayed women on all of these posters, which I haven't quite been able to spend the time to figure out why. Why not? So we're having lunch, and these two guys are out there. One's polishing the other fellow's shoes. I could not pass this up. There we are. There's two pictures of me in this whole show. That's one of them, with my rum and coke. That's my friend Pablo. I have to say that I've never experienced a welcome and a total acceptance in the family anywhere ever, even my own relatives, as I did with him when I showed up there. Of course, whoops, he didn't know me? Who said that? Who said that? Now, I don't want to be accused of just taking pictures of pretty girls. This is for the women. He's a young matador in our troupe. Just some color.
I received no call during this break.
What did you say?
She didn't receive a single phone call while you were away.
You didn't miss her at all, apparently. This is mine.
As we go through these pictures.
Everybody goes, I hate to tell you if you're politically incorrect here on bullfighting, if you think it should. These kids start at that age and love bullfighting, the way I suppose everybody in Alberta loves the Calgary Stampede. It's not going to stop. I mean, you see these odd protestations against bullfighting by nouveau riche, middle class, peaceniks. Listen to me. So here's a man with his kids.
You gotta get up to Cloverdale this next year, Gary.
I'll go with you, David.
The sheriff's car?
Sure. All right. This is Outland has a little bit of a. You have to appreciate that each one of these bullfight things is within a festival, and the festival that these smaller cities or larger towns in Mexico have is like a week long, and it's rodeo, it's this, it's music at night. It's unbelievable. I almost said a swear word. It's unbelievable, and so this is just a quick shot of some of the rodeo stuff before the bullfight that day. He jumps off, so now they got to get this bull out of there. They got him, but they all got to come out and try to get this bull out of the ring. It's a picador in Nacho's group, Bandera and Nacho's group. These fellas, you'll see in a moment, are after 2,000 years, are the guys that tackle the bull in sort of non-traditional manner. Here's our fellow who fights from a horse again, back again. I took that guy's picture because I thought in my own weird way that would be the quintessential good-looking Mexican guy for all the girls.
Very handsome.
Am I right?
Thank you, Carrie.
His hair is unkept. Move
Huh?
on.
What'd you say?
He's hot.
He's hot. And he owns a ranch that raises bulls, girls.
And he's single.
And I think he is, actually.
He's single.
So here's everybody waiting to go in, you know. The
How'd you
different...
know that? He looks so happy.
Because I've seen
What'd you say? What'd he say?
How'd you know he looks so happy?
Oh. So here we are in Outland, yeah.
Do any of the people who raise the bulls ever become toreadors or?
No, well, I don't know. I suppose a lot of them who used to be will now raise bulls, but no, basically no.
Not the other way around?
No.
How come they can have?
They're about, I can't hear all this. What's that? Who, was that Howard again? Was that Howard again? Oh. When are they going to see a bull get killed? What was I going to say? I forget. Here we go. Whoa, look at that guy. Is that the same picture? Am I going the wrong way? No. Is this doubled up? Oh, God, don't tell me. I didn't run this through. I didn't have time. No, this is not. This is new. They said, "Now, wait a minute, that's a good one. There's a very skillful move." The guy had it behind him and pulls the bull behind him. And look at the space. He managed to get that bull that far away. Now, that's if the that's Nacho. Yeah, I can't say any further. Now, this is a new fella, a new man who's fighting. And the difference between this gentleman and the other gentleman is this gentleman kills from the horse, not getting down. And so we've got this interest. It's rare to see a bull this color. So he's planting a few picks just to show it can happen. I don't know. And again, these horses that they have are absolutely unbelievable in how they just, the slightest finesse, and they've avoided that horn. The bulls never, ever touch these horses.
Well, they get the horses of the picador.
Oh, yeah, but not when they're being on the horseback, I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. Oh, they don't cover these, of course. Well, otherwise the bull would get them if they couldn't see what was happening, to put it bluntly. No, these horses can see exactly what's going on.
You know, Kerry, I watched fights in Spain, and when I finished watching there, I had the feeling that it was an unfair contest, that the bulls were predictable.
Of course it's unfair.
Well,
Absolutely it's unfair. There's no denying that.
It wasn't nearly as unfair as I thought it was. When I saw them in Mexico, they weren't quite as skilled, and I saw two or three young guys get taken out, you know. And I realized
This is not a show about a civilization of bulls who fight men.
Equal contest.
Yeah, in Mexico, more equal. I mean, these horses, it's worth going there just to watch what the horses do. I just was astounded. And as I say, this may be one horse, but they only let each horse do this for, I don't know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and they run off for the next stage and they come back with a brand new horse.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Horses get tired.
So here he is, he's just showing how he can control the bull, how he can lean down and touch the bull as the horse sort of leads the bull in close and just stays close enough. It's kind of like what I've heard about the old joke about men and women, you know. The man will run just fast enough that the woman can't catch her, and the woman will run just fast enough that she can't catch the man. And you sort of get this dynamic. That's what happens here. Now here he is. This man is now planting the sword from above straight down into what he hopes is the bull's heart area. You see that?
Oh, he's killing from the horseback?
He's killing from horseback. And the bull, does that bull's horn touch the horse? Oh, I've been found a liar. Well, it's very rare and it doesn't do any damage. I never saw any harm.
So does he have a different name, Kerry, or no?
No.
George.
So that was that. Now here's Nacho doing a back behind with the big cape and the bull just coming in and going whoop. Uh-oh. Reg, I still got a problem. Well, these are out of sync, but that's my problem. I didn't catch them. So this is this man dismounting after he's put the sword in, and the bull is bleeding at the mouth, which means that the various organs, arteries or whatever, have been cut. Now this is out of sync again. Now, here we have Nacho, obviously at the latter end of a fight. In other words, the bull's gone through the picador, the banderilleros, and it's now time for the kill. And the bull is a little tired. His neck has been weakened. Nacho is taking advantage of that fact to do two things. One is, it's kind of a cheap shot to sort of play this, but he's down there at great risk if this bull, and a lot of bulls suddenly just find a second wind and boom. So he's challenging this bull, and as I said, the reason I like this particular bullfighter is that he's always talking to Toro, hey, Toro, this, that, and everything else. He really gets into it. You can see him doing it there. So the bull is approaching him, and it's coming in, and he takes him through. And it was after this shot that, nope, it's between that shot and this shot that my great picture came out. I started. But look back here. You see his voice? He doesn't not only have his mouth open, he is talking loudly so that you can hear it throughout the bull ring to the bull. And then what he does is the bull comes up and around and he grabs his attention with the muleta and brings him around again to go back through another way. And I've got better shots of that later on. And notice that the bull's head is very low. These are the sort of, if you're a judge and you're giving points, this is great because the bull's head is down. If the bull's head is midway and charging through, it's nothing. And he's not ever touching the cape. Sometimes you see fighters with the cape clearly draped over the bull's head. That's not good. So he brings him through again, out, up, and back. Now he's up on his feet. And he brings him back again. Oh, this is a slightly different shot. Now that kind of looks silly, right? It looks silly. But if you're there, that look fits so well into the whole dynamic of what's occurring. He's talking to him. And he's got this grimace on his face.
Any idea what he's saying?
No, I don't speak Spanish on those occasions. Look at that. He's talking, he's really talking to that bull. Whoops, forget that. How do I get rid of that? Uh-oh. Reg! What do I hit, that?
No. Arrow.
How do I get that? Damn. Uh-oh. Okay, I'll leave it over there. And they like to walk away. You know, they think they've got the bull standing still. And that means psychologically standing still, not just physically. And they'll turn their back and do a great thing with the audience.
And you know someone's going to yell out if he comes out. Look out!
You know, I've never seen that. I've never seen a matador do that and the bull doesn't just stand there. They wouldn't do that if they didn't think the bull was just going to remain there.
What's the price of admission to get in to see it?
Well, it depends. If you want, it's anywhere from just a few dollars to maybe $40 for the best seat. I like that. Look at the nose of that guy over there, Kate. Toro. Brings him back, turns him around, brings him back through the same way. Still on the ground. Turns him around, brings him back a third time, right straight through. Brings him back a fourth time. Then he's getting up. Now he's on his feet. Fifth time. Brings him around. Sixth time. And the audience is just going, "Olé!" as loud as you can imagine. The whole place is up in arms. This is terrific stuff.
How long
There he
the
is.
duration of a fight?
What's that?
The duration of a fight, like how long is it?
You know, I don't know. I'm lost in time. I've never tried to figure that out. Moment of truth. Now, that's a weird picture, but it shows you sort of what they're up against. Now, the proportions are really wrong there. The matador is much smaller and the bull is much bigger, but it shows you why some of them go screwy. So he's back in there. That's almost perfect. Well, whatever. And now he's sort of challenging this bull. And he uses that, and the bull is down and dead. And
That's the puntillo, huh?
yeah. And he's talking to the crowd. He did a very good job. He's happy. They throw him some flowers. He's got an ear. Now, remember that first, very early slide of the acrobats flipping over the bull? This is kind of what happens. This is the lead guy in a group of that many men. And they just come out all of a sudden and approach a bull. And kaboom. He takes the bull full force, right like that, positions himself between the horns, jumps up, lays over the bull's neck, and the bull lifts his head, of course, trying to toss him over, and the other guys come charging out. And meanwhile, this guy's holding on for dear life, and these guys come charging out, and they try to capture the bull. One guy's pulling on the tail, and they pretty well, the bull, after a while, the bull just stops and stands there and says, "I give up to you guys." Next bull, 460 kilos. Oh, look at that animal. That's 1,000 years of breeding coming out of there. That's not a domesticated cow or the kind of bull a Holstein bull in Abbotsford. This is a wild animal which has been kept wild and bred for his wildness and for his incredible ability to endure whatever and have courage. Away he goes. What's up there? What can I see? Bang, this guy again. I'll get him. Chase that horse.
Do they breed from these bulls before they fight?
Sorry?
Do Do
No.
they breed from them?
No, not from those bulls. They have breeding bulls.
So,
Okay, now, the last place I went was the wildest.
Take it fast, kill them all.
There's a town, I managed to keep the key from the hotel by mistake, but I'm glad I did because I can now tell you what this town is called. Jalos is the name. This is a town, this town is east of Guadalajara. It's famous throughout Mexico as the town of the friendly drunks. That's what it's known for, friendly drunks. And they have their fiesta at this time in February for a week. And we were there for one day, and it's unbelievably out of sight. And because my wife wasn't with me, I'll say no more. Anyways, this town is called Jalostitotitlan.
I remember I received the call when you were drunk,
When I was drunk.
and I thanked them because you never drink.
Well, I'm glad that's the memory of it. So anyway, what? Oh dear, come on, get out of here. Jalos. We got there around, we drove from Guadalajara to Jalos. We got there around noon. We're in a place having lunch. It's a little old colonial city, and it's beautiful. It's very small. It's only got a small area where everybody can gather. And these kids were there, and kids are great, kids are kids. Buy a hat. There's, poor man there. What I do is I give these fellas a fairly large piece of change and ask to take their picture. This man's asleep. This guy's just a nice local. Look at the cross on his neck. Catholicism is big here. That's me in the glasses. And my wife and I, Lee, we went to Morocco a couple of years ago, and the difference between this place, where everybody wants their picture taken, and Morocco, where they run or threaten you.
Even the guy taking the picture of you taking the picture.
This poor woman, I mean, there's not that many beggars you see, but I just went and got her some water. She was so grateful for that.
Aging isn't for sissies.
Aging isn't for sissies. I thought there was a lot of color in the oranges. We get a lot of fresh oranges. There's that fella again. Are we doing the same thing again? These kids were out trying to market a tequila, I think.
Those are some of the friendly drunks.
Yeah, those are some of the friendly ones. Yes, Charles, thank you. Let me just introduce Charles. Charles, stand up for a minute. An old classmate who owns the Alaska Cafe in Dawson Creek. And if you ever go to Dawson Creek, he was brilliant. He didn't practice law. He owns probably half of Dawson Creek and all their Rolls Royces. And he's still married to the same lovely lady, and all his kids are married. He's a unique individual, the Alaska Cafe. Big difference. Yeah. Okay, where are we? A lot of women, girls, I guess is a better word. So this, what? So here's the pick. This is at Jalos at noon on the day of the fight, deciding what bulls were there. This is how they look at them. I don't know how they tell which is what the advantage of it. There they are pointing to the ones that he thinks maybe Pablo would like. That's one of my better shots, I think. I love that shot. That's sort of in there. And this is the ring at Jalos where they then go out in the ring and they put everything in the hat and they go through the hat process. And this is the town. This is the central square, the big church. There's not much more to it in the old colonial sense. It sort of spreads out for kilometers in the background. But this is sort of the square at night that night. Wow, I'll show you later. And this is in the afternoon before the fight. This is the circus atmosphere. You can buy everything there, drinks. That's the ring, obviously, behind. I don't know what these horses ever did. I couldn't figure it out. This is sort of everybody getting ready, waiting for the time to go in. This guy and that guy played an unbelievably unique role that I'd never understood until now. I never knew it existed. My friend Pablo, I noticed giving this man a few dollars. And I couldn't figure out, he's just a guy who's obviously had a bit too much to drink, very friendly, nice guy. Why would you pay him any money? Well, we'll get to that later. That's the second picture of me. And believe it or not, I've got water. I have work to do. They're into beer big time. I just thought that was a nice composition. Friends, people hanging around. That's where they hang various parts of the bulls after they come out and they slaughter them. A couple of old friends. Oh, God. Reg! Why am I having these problems? You wouldn't know. It's my fault. I agree. Okay. Marking out the ring again. Kids hanging around beforehand, like kids would hang around when Barnum and Bailey came to town and put the tent up. There's the ring. That's one of our banderilleros just there in the afternoon checking it out. These kids, I sort of posed them like this. Hangers on. That's a shot from inside, behind the thing, out looking out at the people. I just lined those up because beer is what makes these things work. One of the group's swords, they each have a number of swords because they may need them if they're having a hard day. This is a gentleman. Huh? What? I don't know. Never mind. He's with another group, one of ours. That fella going in. Another one. Why are these repeating? That's my favorite. She's the looker of the show. There's the band. Here they come. Oh, look at that guy. No nonsense. He's yeah, thank you. He's completely in the air, that bull, right now. Completely in the air. And they move fast. And there's Nacho, ready to go. So this is this stuff is the matador getting a sense of the bull. See him adopting that same pose? Arched back, head up, but not quite so far. Hey! He's yelling at the bull, very loud. It's interesting because the sun goes down and you get these marvelous differences between the sun and the shade. And the matadors have a bit of a thing there with the way they think they can best fight the bull, whether it should be in the shade or I mean, these guys go in there. I asked him once, are you afraid before a fight? And he said, absolutely, every fight, very afraid. I said, how do you overcome that fear? And he said to me, I have to rely upon my own experience. Now, in an extremely different sense, that's the way I feel about going to court. There's always the butterflies, but whatever you do in life, if you're good at it and you take risks, you go in there knowing that you have to rely upon your own experience. And if you can rely on your own experience, you can accomplish amazing things. So these men go in there knowing that they can die, and they do. I think there's been a couple of deaths in the last 20 years in Mexico. I don't know about Spain. It's always on their mind. It never leaves them. It's the risk that they run every single time, but they do it, and they do well at it. Now, here's our friend, right? What do you think he's doing? Why would my friend Pablo, the manager of Nacho, pay this guy any money? He sits up there in the stands and boos the bejesus out of all the other matadors and gets the crowd all ramped up for Nacho, and he moves around. He's over on one side of the ring, and then 30 minutes later, he's in the other side. That's how this man makes a living. He goes from city to city. Now look at that guy. Look at the age of that guy. And he's, whoops.
This is a Spanish guy, is it?
No, these are all Mexicans. But he's been at this for a long time, and that's how he makes his living. Oh, and Nacho's another bull.
Are they paid well?
You know, I don't know. He is. He gets about $8,000 US a fight.
Is this the Spanish guy, this one?
No, the Spanish guy's history. We're done with him. This is still Nacho. This is a Mexican friend.
So $8,000 per fight, and he does 100 a year?
I don't know. He did 3 in 3 days during this trip. So look at him there. He's sort of challenging that bull. Here he is. He's got him psychologically still. Psychologically stopped. The physical stopping is easy. The psychological stopping is what this is all about. The bull's up in the air. He's up in the air. He's got the sword all the way in. It's been a good kill. That's an interesting picture, isn't it? Who's getting whom? Sort of a mutual. That bull's down fast, and Nacho is just pleased. He's perfected his art and done it well. This should have been before the last one. The TV and the radio on these guys constantly. It's a big thing. It's like football in this country. Another one coming out. That's not a bad spike. That's better, you see, before the shoulders. Uh-oh, horse over. This is always fun. I mean, they can knock a horse down so easily. And then of course, that's why the horses are all padded. It's not fair. The bull's saying this is not fair. And then the banderilleros with the capes, they're trying to get the bull's attention to go somewhere else. Now look at that one. That's what I saw happen when they put the horse over the barrera in Spain. The bull is so powerful, he can lift up a horse and a man with his neck. After the show, the kids, everybody can throw their seats in for a bullfight. The kids pick them up, and I guess they get paid to put them back to it. This is a little bit of a slaughterhouse scene. The heads are over in the far left. The bulls are here. This is one of the only picture I have left. The other rings that are much more, you'd think you'd walked into a really good butcher shop. It's all just lined up beautifully clean, and they go to restaurants. So here we are. This is the guy on behalf of the management of the ring. He's giving Pablo the money for the night. And it's like 100,000 pesos, which is, since they don't have big bills, it's a lot of money that gets passed around. So wads of money go across, and whether one has to declare it or not, I'll leave to somebody else. And then they go back to the hotel, and the they go on a thing, like the manager gets so much, the matador gets 3 credits, this guy gets that. They divide everything up on a share basis. This is later the night in that the whole wide-ranging plaza was just covered. Everybody was just drinking and dancing, and there were bands all over the place. I got into it and left my camera in the room. It just went on for all hours. I don't know what, had no place to put that. I didn't know what to do with it. That's sort of a unique picture in all of this. It's a sculpture, obviously. I don't know when. These are the letters I discovered in looking up to my old stuff, the notes I wrote in 1960, defining to myself what all these Spanish terms meant for all the various aspects of the fight. 1960, when I saw my first fights.
Who made those notes?
I did when I was 18.
Okay.
So there's who produced this whole show, and I sent. Remember that bull? I showed you that stuffed bull up on the wall. My daughter Liat, who's good at Photoshop, I sent her just a picture of the ring, and she sent this back attached to and what's ironic about it is the middle bullfighter in the bottom, Manolete. He's the famous bullfighter who got killed in Spain by Isidero, was the bull back in 1950, late 40s, early 50s. And that's back to my picture. And that's that.